Welcome back to another episode of Misunderstood. I'm Renee V, aka Mrs. Understood, and this is the podcast where being Mr. Understood makes perfect sense. And today I'm super excited to have with me AJ Bishop Andrews. Hi, AJ.
Hey, Renee. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. AJ Bishop Andrews is an internationally recognized speaker, wealth strategist, and the founder of FEROZ. We
Yeah,
want to
very
know what
good.
that
Very
what that
good.
stands
So
for.
good.
A movement redefining wealth, power, and legacy for high performing women who are ready to lead from within. With more than 2 decades of leadership experience at institutions like JPMorgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and Key Private Bank, AJ brings the clarity of a strategist, the presence of a coach, and the grounded wisdom of someone who's lived what she teaches. This is why we're on together, because this is what I do as well. We are totally in sync.
The universe brought us
They
together.
did. But that's not it. She's not just advising women through transition, she's lived it. And as a first generation college graduate, former senior wealth executive, and stepmother, AJ built a life of success, security, and status. But beneath the surface, she felt the quiet truth that many high achieving women carry. This version of success no longer fits. That moment of reckoning became a catalyst, not just for change, but for reclamation. Her turning point led to finding FEROZ, a movement for women ready to lead with clarity and power on their own terms, and to her forthcoming book, Rich Like Her, a story of 4 women reclaiming power, redefining success, and creating wealth from within. OMG.
Like, wow, I kind of sound like a badass.
You sound amazing. Okay, now let's get to it. So tell me, AJ, what does FEROZ stand for? Because that's something that I know my audience will want to know.
Yeah. So Feroz
Oh,
is
FEROZ.
Portuguese. Yes, is
Oh,
Portuguese for fierce. So my mom is from Brazil and she is the most Feroz woman I've ever met. Her journey really, I feel like, is the epitome of why the work I do exists. She came to the United States with just a third grade education. She met my father in the military and just took a chance, right? She wanted a different life for her at the time and my oldest sister, and I was later to come. But it's this idea that not fierce like through aggression, but just more in that quiet power and knowing of what happens, right, when you start to trust yourself.
yeah, and coming being an immigrant is already you're a badass by doing that, and to be able to share what the United States has to offer to the children is was the dream, right? And that's
For
still
sure.
what it is. And so it reminds, is it like ferocious? Is that what that word?
Yeah, kind of the best way to put it. Yeah, it's the idea that it's not like about being overpowering or aggressive. It's more that conviction, right? Like that I say conviction is driven by clarity. If you're clear on what it is that you want, it's easier to go after it. So this idea of feroz is it's like, it's a way of being, it's a presence, it's a like a quality in a woman in this case that she knows herself so well and she trusts herself so well that the decisions she has to make on a daily basis, whether that's financial or life, are easier to make, right? Like I realized the other day, I'm like, I'm really in the decision-making business. Like, of course, I help people make decisions at really challenging, specifically financial decisions, right? At really challenging times of their lives. Normally it's because a loved one has passed away or they're getting divorced, like there's some form of a loss.
Mhm.
And I just realized I'm like, decision making at that time when you're so emotional, it's hard to make decisions and be logical when you're wrapped up in emotions. So the story was really just born from how do we use our emotions in a productive way? Because hello, money is very emotional, even though you wouldn't think so based off of the wealth management industry as it is today. And how do we just make sure that, right, that idea to make decision makings, it gives women the inner authority and power to be able to move forward in a way that feels aligned.
I love that. So you come up with some great points already, but I know that you have it really going on. You've figured it out. Well,
I'm
none of
joking.
us really have, but
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
what you're doing, coming from where you come from and your background, you have figured out what makes you kind of light your fire, right?
for sure. It's been a
Yeah.
process, right? I feel like I've lived about 15 different lives. I'll be 45 in January. The book comes out in January. And it's just one of those scenarios where I'm like, I could literally feel like, coupled with my experience and the 20 years of working with super high performing women and business owners and billionaires and tech startups, like there's just a common story. And that story is our ability to make quality decisions truly determines our success in life.
Mhm.
Yet we are constantly comparing ourselves, competing, and I'm speaking specifically through the lens of a woman, but let's be honest, men do it too,
Sure.
right? How are we supposed to know what success looks like for you, Renee, or for me? And it shouldn't look the same because we're different people, but yet we have one vision of what success and wealth and money and status should look like. And that's something I feel like I've personally had to come up against multiple times in my life, as well as the women and their families that I've supported.
Oh. So, okay, my question now that we know what you do and we know where you come from a little bit. So, what's a moment on your journey that you felt misunderstood?
Mm. So I grew up in Utah. So as I mentioned, my mom's from Brazil. My father was actually, he was born on a cotton farm in Alabama. And I grew up in Utah, which is predominantly Mormon, predominantly white. There's an Air Force base, and that's how my family got there. My father was in the Air Force. He passed away when I was a baby. And when he passed away, my mother inherited $1 million. This was in 1982. So, like, we think $1 million is kind of a lot of money still. I think it's a lot of money still, but compared to, right, 1982, that could have been a completely different trajectory for me and my sisters. And what happened is, there was this moment of her not being clear and feeling, right, she has a script, as I call it in my book, a wealth script, a money script of she's not smart enough. And
Mhm.
that story, right, that limiting belief in her created an environment where when she had to make some really big decisions on the money that she inherited, right, that it left her stuck in places that she would have probably never found herself buying fake gold coins, right, investing in annuities that lasted longer than she ever would. All done in good faith, right? But I feel like what I've realized, in a very long story short, is I've been misunderstood because I realized I came into this business by accident, but I've stayed in it because I don't want more women to go through that experience. So in the beginning of my career, I was very much into like doing it like a man, right? Like I would look at those were the only examples, right? All of my colleagues were men. I was usually the only woman in the room, the only woman of color. And I remember I was like, okay, well, that's success in this job. If I'm going to be successful at this job, I need to do it that way.
Mhm.
And so I remember in the beginning, like trying to be like a badass and, a little more intense than I normally am. And I can be intense, but my natural way is warm and loving and charismatic. And so I remember in the beginning, I had a lot of situations where I was butting heads with advisors who also have very big personalities, and I were not getting along because one of the gifts I always say that I have is I'm able to see patterns really easily. I'm able to take very complex topics and make it simple. And I didn't see any of my male counterparts doing that. And so I felt really misunderstood when I'm like, why are we making wealth management and investing so complicated when really like there's everyday things we can compare it to that the average person would understand? And I realized that ultimately it's a system that was designed to keep people confused, right? Like if you keep people confused, then they're unable to get clarity and conviction and confidence to make their own decisions. And so I think the transparency that's come up recently, right, with social media,
Mhm.
was a good thing, but I'm also seeing a lot of really bad information being shared. Like people who, bless them, have gotten their way out of debt, like giving financial advice when they've actually never managed other people's money. Whereas people in the industry who've been doing it for decades actually can't speak out because there's a lot of rules and regulations around what they can and can't say.
Mhm.
I feel like my story really is a lot of being misunderstood. And that was the launching pad, if you will, for why I decided to start my own business because, like, it makes sense to me. And so, like, who else does this make sense to? And I have been very grateful that over the past 5 years, I've had a lot of women in very similar scenarios who look great on paper and say, wait, there's some things that I need to get aligned within myself, my ability to stop second guessing, my ability to trust myself so that they can feel understood to themselves versus comparing themselves to others.
Whew. We need more AJs in the world.
It's an interesting path to walk, I won't lie, right? Because the conventional noise, as I like to call it, is like it's, show me your car and give me the hacks to make it so that I'm successful. And how do I side hustle my way to $1,000 a day? And it's like, okay, that works for some people, but that shouldn't be the North Star and right the pinnacle of success for everyone. And I think it's the hardest thing to really get clear and say, okay, well, I've made it this far and it doesn't fit. So now what? And I always tell women it's not about burning down everything you've already built. It's this idea that I talk about in the book called beginning again, right? Just from today, what like it is what it is in the past. What have I learned? What can I grow from? And how do I use my own value system and my own purpose to move forward and do right what I call make aligned decisions versus being reactive or following the advice of sometimes well-intended and sometimes not well-intended people.
There's a lot of noise out there. And when
Yeah.
you're on this kind of journey where, and I could speak from experience too, and that just being an entrepreneur, there's confusing. It's confusing. Who do you
Yes.
trust? Who can really help you? Because a lot of times people are really good salespeople,
Yes.
maybe not as good at the advice part, but can sell sand to a beach pretty much.
Yes.
And you can fall into those traps that, you trust somebody and they have good intentions, I think,
Yes.
for the most part, but they're making a quick buck off of us. And,
So true.
we're not, it's not oftentimes useful information that they're giving us. Or sharing their experiences. It's more like a coaching 101,
Yeah, blueprint map.
right, and not giving us the goods,
So
like
good.
take me there, like take me where you've gone. I want to be on that train with you. That's why I'm paying you. And sometimes it works out great, but a lot of times it doesn't.
Well, it's funny. We got on the call and before we started recording, and you're like, "How's your day going?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in the middle of exactly what you're talking about, right?" I
Yeah.
tend to coming from corporate America, I would say the most comfort I've ever felt is having all the resources I could possibly want at my fingertips and just needing to know who to call. And now that I'm on the other side of entrepreneurship, where if it's up to me, if it's meant to be, it's up to me, right? Like the whole saying, trying to be mindful that I can't do it all and nor should I, but how do you figure out who you can trust? And what I realized even today and these different layers that I continue to go through because I'm in the work too. And I think that's number one, the number one sign you can tell if someone is right in alignment with what you're trying to accomplish is are they still doing the work themselves? And I always tell people I'm always a student first, right? Like I'm always wanting to learn better ways to make decisions. I'm wanting to learn better ways to explain things and to communicate. But that doesn't always mean like that's what people want, right? Like I was listening in on a marketing podcast the other day, and they're like, people either run away from pain or towards pleasure, but they tend to want to run away from pain,
Mhm.
which means like we want that instant gratification. That's why Amazon and DoorDash and all of those exist, right? Like we push a button and what we want comes in the door immediately versus what we know is like us figuring out our own process. And I like to call it framework. So that's what I'm really great at with my team and with my clients is helping them build their own frameworks that work for them. Now, I have a process to help them build that.
Mhm.
But the questions, for example, Renee, that you would probably ask yourself would be very different than the questions I would ask myself when I'm up against an important decision in my business.
Mhm.
And that's that it should be like that, right? Because what you're trying to accomplish and what I'm trying to accomplish may look aligned, but the way we go about it is very different. And that's what I think is beautiful in this process. But we've also lost that with all of the influencers who have, right, the magic framework and the $7 or $27 funnel to
Mhm.
get us going. And so then to your point, it's really hard to know who can I trust and who's actually going to get me the results that I want.
And
And
that
in
leads,
my
yeah,
work, like we're in the like life-changing industry, right? The last
correct.
client I worked with,
Transformation.
well, and not only that, just when you think about money, right, there's so many words that are attached to money, power, status, right, freedom. And so it's not just a matter of a $27 tool, which, yes, we're going to create those because the idea is that we want to create options for women at any level, right? Because in 10 years, women will be the majority wealth holders. So by 2035, more women will be in the hand more money will be in the hands of women than ever before in the history of humans. And if women don't feel
Wait, stop right
confident,
there.
yeah.
How do we know this? Like, where do you get that kind of information from?
Yeah, so every major wealth management company has done the studies. UBS, Morgan Stanley's, like every wealth management company has their own research. But by 2030, that's our first ticker of when over $30 trillion will be transitioning into the wealth of into the hands of women.
Mhm.
But by 2035, so exactly from 10 years from now, women will own the majority of wealth. So that's whether because their husbands have passed away, they're inheritors of the wealth from their parents, their
Mhm.
businesses are really taking off. But at the end of the day, women will be leading and be making the decisions. And the other statistic that's a little scary, also that's through wealth management research, is if you look at the two of us, one of us actually, by statistics, is not confident in making financial decisions. Like to our core, not like which way's left and which way's right. Like that is a truth.
I am the person.
And I've had those moments too. That's it, right? Because here's the other thing we don't learn in these new ways of learning about, I call it personal growth and development, because
Mhm.
ultimately business is an entrepreneurship is a personal growth journey.
Mhm.
But what we haven't been taught is how to make decisions at different levels. Because, Renee, I've got to imagine that the decisions you're making today are very different than the decisions you had to make 5 years ago. And so, if you don't have your own process and your own framework to start updating your own decision-making process when you get to new levels of wealth, success, money, decisions, business decisions, like you're not going to feel prepared. And that's by design, right? So I started one day, I'm like, okay, well, what would I need to do to create a business where I teach women how to create their own decision-making frameworks
Mhm.
based off of what I know, based off of what I've seen others, and then really help her get her own personalized map so that in 5 years from now, when she has to make even bigger decisions, she has, right, that playbook, and it's her playbook. It's not mine, it's not yours, exactly hers. And it's a fun process to your point. It's transformation, but not everyone's always ready for that, right? It's just like I said yesterday, I was going to start eating well today. Well, here we are today and got the stressors first thing. And luckily, I only had a little bit of milk in my coffee, which I should have had oat milk. But like it's those little decisions every day that add up. And that's where your confidence builds is in your ability to not only know which direction you're going to go, but to honestly continue to stay in alignment with what you say you want to do.
Well, that also takes a lot of discipline. And
Yes.
that's something that's really not, it's
Mhm.
kind of not a thing for a lot of people.
Yeah,
So if you want to change a behavior, the best way to do it is to be consistent and to do it all the
100%.
time. But it's a practice, right? So like personal development's a practice. You don't hit a a peak and you're like, all right, I'm done. No, it continues. But that's also with like building habits. They're the kind of habits like you should have, you said the woulda, coulda, shoulda,
Yes.
we don't want to go there. But when it comes to like the knowing doing gap, like you should have had like oat milk, but you put, you decided to put in regular milk, but that you're actually thinking about it. And I think a lot of people out there don't
Mhm.
think like that.
Yes. And I think that's the unfortunate reality of the world we're in, right? Like we've always biologically, our brains, right, are fight or flight.
Mhm.
And so we love to be able to like get instant gratification, right? Like that's just the truth. We want the Amazon cart to have already been delivered by the time we put it in there, right? We want the thing we want right now. And the challenge with that is there's something really beautiful in the process, to your point, of hitting that pause, right? Like the pause is where the power is, not in the constant consumption or, right, like instant gratifications. And hell, I'm a human being too. Like I want things right now, I want things yesterday. But when I look back on the scenarios personally in my life and where helped other women, when they've taken the time to get very, very clear on what matters most to them, like it just becomes like there's decisions I don't even have to think about anymore because I've already done the work on that.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to money and finances too, like think about it. When's the last time you actually learned about money and finances? Like if I wasn't in the industry, I would probably have to say it was like my high school finance class. And I wasn't really even paying attention because
Oh.
I didn't think finances was my thing. I loved math, but I didn't like want to be in finances. And so now you actually have to go find the information to learn. And then so you either get overwhelmed because you do a Google search and there's like 50,000 and
Yep.
it comes back to that idea of trust, or it comes back to credibility. And it's like, well, we're in like I think the times of ultimate like credibility issues everywhere. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? It's like, is that teenager really going to come back and mow my lawn? Like, it's just you people are not following through consistent with what they say they're going to do. And so it's creating a lot of noise and confusion, right? Like I go back to that word of confusion for the people who really need the information and the tools and the resources. And I realize I'm like, I can't sit by any longer. Like I gotta work to do, right? So the mission of FEROZ is by 2035 that will have empowered 1 million women with tools, workshops, masterclass, live events, my book, obviously, on how to take that moment to pause, get quiet, and really figure out, right, the lifelong path for what I call an aligned life or whole woman wealth. Right? This idea that wealth is not just outside of me, it's in me, it's how I think about the world, it's
Mhm.
how I want to spend my time, my talent, and my treasure. And so it's a process, and not everyone wants to go through that. And I get it. So me and my team are always thinking about like how do we make it more accessible for the woman who's just dipping her toes in, right? It's
Mhm.
like if you've never practiced yoga before, you're not going to go bust out a 60-minute hot yoga class.
Right.
But can you do a pose for 5 minutes every day and start building that muscle? So that's really how we're starting to think differently about the work that we do with women is how do we give kind of that more consumable instant gratification in the moment so the need is taken care of, but then there's the excitement and the curiosity to continue on the journey because let's be honest, like money and finances is fun, but it's not sexy,
It's
right? Like it's
fun.
it's it's fun and it's necessary.
It's fun if it's flowing in, but other than that, it's
Exactly,
not fun.
exactly. So there's just, I'm trying to like be playful with this idea that we all know that money means it has an emotional charge to people, right? Whether you're good with it or bad with it. I've seen billionaires who think they're going to lose their money like paying for everyday items, right? It's the money story, the script that I've mentioned before that you were taught. It's like, what did your parents say about money? What did your family say about money? Is it a good or a bad thing? And that's the work that has to be done if we want to be in the place we need to be in 10 years to control the wealth that's coming to women.
Right. And, a lot of these behaviors that we've inherited from our family and our surroundings over time, they become kind of a set program in your mind. So,
Yes.
and a lot of the ancestors above us were the ones that told us that money doesn't grow on trees, or
Yes.
you have to work really, really hard to make money, and don't set your sights too high. That's not
Yes.
realistic, things like that. And those limiting beliefs is what is implanted in us as kids. It's not good or bad, it just is. But it's,
Yes.
but if you don't seek outside of what your personal family beliefs are, you're never going to get to a place, if you feel like you want to, any different way, because that's how we learn. And then the
It's
school system on top of that is just screwing everybody up, because it's not helpful, it's not
Well,
helpful.
and it's meant to educate to the lowest denominator, is
Yep.
what I always think of. Like, I love school. Like I said, I'll always be a learner.
Me too.
But if
Mhm.
I had just done the minimum that was given to me back in the day, like I wouldn't be where I'm at, because the other beauty of being a student and a constant learner is curiosity, right? So, like, I have thousands of books that I've read and reread because if I don't remember something, I want to go back to the source and reread it. And the beauty is it means something completely different now because I'm in a different place.
Yeah.
So there's this word mastery, right? Like Tony Robbins talks about it. A lot of great Buddhists, meditation, pastors, like think about it. Anybody who's on this path of personal growth and development, this idea of mastery just means you come back to the beginning. So this idea of beginning again, and you see where you're at in this current moment, and you look at all the tools and the resources that you've had up until now, and you decide, this has worked. I want to keep going with it. This is what I've learned with it. I'm going to let that be. We're going to keep that in chapter 5. We're now moving on to chapter 6, right? The beauty of what you just said too, I think that we don't talk a lot about enough of what specifically with money and women is we also keep it very quiet, right?
Hmm.
It's also like kind of taboo as women to talk about money. Like I've worked with men my whole life. I live in a house full of men. Talking about money doesn't matter to them. Like it
Right.
does, but it's not as like it's not polite as I was told, right? Don't talk about money, that's not polite. Or,
Right.
just be grateful for what you have. I think you mentioned that. But one
Yeah.
thing I had to learn along the way is like I have to talk about money, one, because that's the industry I'm in, but number two, like in order to grow outside of my own limiting beliefs and my own comfort level, like I had to start learning to advise to billionaires. I'm not a billionaire, but I had to, like, I know, like, I had to trust in my own inner knowing and the knowledge and the work I've done for 20 years would be valuable to someone like that. So I think it's just, it's a beauty, right? COVID created this time for all of us to, in a way, stop and realize, like, am I on the path that I want to be? Am I not? I think most of us like had that hiccup. We're still readjusting, right? It's only been 5 years, although some people feel like it should have gone by faster, but it's like that great pause, as I like to cause it, is causing a lot of women to think more deeply about like what matters. And at the end of the day, money really isn't all there is to life. So, those are the questions I'm always excited about. I'm looking at different ways to continue to have conversations like this because this is where the growth happens, right? Is in these dialogues. If I were just sitting in my room, journaling on my ideas, it's hard for me to question or to confront those limiting beliefs and ideas I have if I don't have someone else to compare. And
Hmm.
that's where comparison actually does work well, right? Is hey, like you tell me your story, I'll tell you mine, and let's like craft the right narrative moving forward because that's the beauty is you get to create the story that you want to have happen when it comes back to, right, how wealthy you feel in life.
Yeah. And we talk about wealth. People shy away from money talk, like you said, but we need money to live. So
Yes.
I don't know why it's such a problem to want more of it, and to seek out strategies to, invest in the best way you can, and save where you can, and put money over here where you can, to build wealth while, you're sleeping sometimes. And I think we need people out there, the listener, to know that money there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's,
Correct.
that is its own like personal self-limiting belief for a lot of people, because
Hmm.
of just or for fear of being showy or money hungry or gold digger or whatever the heck people say.
Yes.
Well, I don't. I'm all those things. Like I feel like everybody is,
Yeah.
but everyone's kind of ashamed to say it out loud.
Well, and I think gold digger could look two different ways, right? Like there's the
Yeah.
gold digger who's sitting back and saying, I don't have to work for this. I'm going to take advantage of others to find my way to
Hmm.
build wealth, which is, right, a whole other podcast.
Hmm.
And then there's gold diggers like us who are trying to create a better future for ourselves and our families, right? And I'm sure
And there's
many of your
nothing
listeners are in
wrong
that
with that.
category where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, like I've got to dig the gold, right? Not only the money, but like the beliefs and my
Mhm.
ideas around what it means. Because you said something, right? This idea of wealth is directly correlated to your ability to feel worthy,
Yeah.
right? Wealth is a worth journey, it's an identity. If you don't feel worthy of money or wealth, then you're most likely not going to build it, right? It's just the simple characteristic of if I don't eat the healthy food that I know I should to lose weight or to get in, right? If I have a heart problem or diabetes or whatever, then I'm not going to get that result because I'm telling myself, right? I'm living from a different vision or perspective of what it means to get healthy when even though I know what I need to do. Does that make me a bad person? No, it just means that something's getting in the way, usually a belief,
Yeah.
right, that we were taught that is stronger than your will to want to get it done. And so that's the work that's missing right now in the wealth management system is it's all focused on logic. It's all focused on strategy, and we need all of that. But
Mhm.
unless you've done the work to look at the emotions you hold around money and wealth and whether you feel worthy or you deserve it or not, the two will never go hand in hand. They'll
Right.
always be fighting. So even if you make ridiculous amounts of money, including myself in the past and other women I've worked with, you can still lose it all because you haven't tightened that loop, right? There's not a closed loop. You're still spiraling with the mental models and the limiting beliefs that you have. So my whole like purpose for existing is to bridge the two, right? We got to get our mindset right. We got to get strategy, and that's ultimately where action, decision making, and this idea of building wealth, preserving wealth actually happens.
Oh man, I feel like I could talk to you for another hour and a half.
I know
But
I'm like, is it almost time?
I
Goodness.
know, no, it is. I would love to just wrap it up with, where can people find you? How can they support you? Please give us, I want the listener to really, I mean, take what AJ is saying and use her, contact her, get your stuff in order. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go. So
Yeah.
where can they
I
find?
love this rally cry. So I would say I have two rally cries right now.
Okay.
One is this idea of the book, right? The story is people think I'm crazy, but I went with the fiction, right? Because women learn through stories.
Totally.
And the book is about four women who are at these crossroads of figuring out what wealth really means to them. And they're all in very different positions. And I think a lot of women, no matter your age, will identify with not only one, but multiple parts of these characters. So the first rally cry is get the book and share it with other women you love, right? Like it really is meant to be a conversation starter. I wanted the book to be a scenario where, maybe a year from now, I've got book circles that I'm going to talk to women and we're having
Mhm.
these kind of dialogues at an even deeper level and really getting to the core of what is it going to take to get you and your family to a level of generational wealth and legacy? Because that's at the end of the day, that's really my full like women are powerful and badasses, and that's what I'm up to. So that's number one. Look for the book. It comes out in January, but I'll be doing a lot of really fun things starting in a week. It's now October,
Mhm.
to start building the excitement for that. And then the other second really helpful way is, as I mentioned, I'm on a mission to impact 1 million women. So these kind of conversations matter. And speaking, as you mentioned and introduced me, I'm an international speaker. I love to share this story. I love workshopping these kind of juicy questions with
Mhm.
audiences. So if you're part of a community of women who need to hear this message, then that's the other place that I love to contribute is getting women in dialogues in larger groups to have these kind of conversations that really matter and will matter well beyond, right, our years here. So those are the two rally cries and requests and gratitudes that I would love to participate and share with anyone who may be listening. But be on the lookout because all of these amazing fun things are happening and I can't wait.
Yes, please follow AJ Bishop Andrews. And is that your name on Instagram?
So on Insta, I'm AJ Bishop Andrews.
Yes.
On TikTok, I'm Rich Like Her.
Oh,
But almost everywhere, I'm
she's
AJ
on the
Bishop
top.
Andrews.
She's
Yeah.
important. I love it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for all of your knowledge and your time. And I look forward to having a part two with you of this conversation.
Yay, me
I think we
too.
could probably have a series of it very easily.
Yeah.
I know I can learn a lot from AJ. I want all of you out there to learn from her. She's going to be a catalyst for change for women and their belief system with wealth. So thank you for being here. This
Thank you
is
so much
yes,
to
and
Renee
we
and
will do this
listeners. I can't wait to meet you all.
we will do it again. And just remember that being understood, to understand others, we must understand ourselves first. And that goes back with the mindset. That goes back with everything we do. It's underlying foundation. But AJ's here to help you, and she's going to help me too, navigate this and figure out our blueprint for what is going to work for us in our lives. So thank you, AJ, for being here. Uh,
Thank you for having
I'm
me.
very excited to know you and to learn more from you.
Oh, my pleasure. And I can't wait to do a part two.
Yes, we will do that. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.